Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Mr. New's Art Class. It's wonderful to see your smiling faces today. Today I have this beautiful RendR Sketchbook. You may have seen these, some other YouTube artists have done reviews of these before. I am super excited about getting this sketchbook. One of the concerns, one of the problems that I have had with other sketchbooks in the past, if you're just using normal inks, it doesn't bleed through to the other side. So, here I've got plenty of pages, but then, this page, I've got this picture on this side, but, this other side I could use, but certain types of mediums, certain types of materials bleed through. So this was, when with Inktober last year, I drew this submarine, and the Copic markers that I used for the blue background really bled through to the other side. Now, the reason why this RendR Sketchbook is supposed to be super awesome is because, let me see if I can zoom in here a little bit. It says it's no show-through paper. That's the whole thing that makes this paper supposed to be, this sketchbook supposed to be super awesome. Now, I've seen reviews of it before. I don't know if I believe them until I try it. I know that's what everybody says, but, you don't believe it until you try it. Now, this says that it used with all media. It specifically has pictures of spray paints, markers, that looks like maybe a block of charcoal or something, pencil, brush, pen tip. So it can be used with all sorts of things. It is acid and lignin free, it says. The big important thing there, acid free just means it's going to last a lot longer. Heavyweight paper is super good for a lot of reasons. That means the paper is not flimsy. So anyway, I am super excited about trying out this sketchbook and letting you guys know what I think. It is brand new. I didn't want to do an unboxing, but it is brand new. You can see the cover here has some goofy, it's like the kind of, it's a fancy cover. It's got this little, embossed Crescent. That's the company that makes it. And it's nice hard cover with, it looks like it's stitched, maybe. It looks like the papers are stitched in. Yes, there's the stitching. I don't know if the camera picks that up because it's white stitching on white paper. But it also looks like it's glued. I'm looking at the binding back here. It does look like it's glued and stitched. So it's definitely good construction, but this binder has a finish to it that picks up stuff very easily. So if it's definitely going to get smudged over time. It's already smudged, even though it's brand new. Never been used before at all. I am noticing first thing right off the bat, let me take this thing off. I am noticing right off the bat that these pages are very stiff, which is a good thing, but if I were to open it up to this middle page here, it's not going to lay flat. It's very springy. It just springs back up. So that might cause some issues later on. Obviously for today, I'm just going to be using, this page is kind of glued to that black page. I'm just going to skip that first page, and I'll start here. And here, it springs up a little bit, but it's not terrible. All right, so I think we're ready to get started. I'm just going to sketch something with pencil first, then because it's the no show-through paper, I'm specifically going to be using my micron pens and my Copic markers to see if we get anything bleeding through. And I'll come back and talk to you at the end, see how it worked. Alright guys, so I'm coming back at you here with a midway critique of this paper, because one thing that I have definitely noticed here is that the ink from the Copic markers feathers quite a bit more than it does with my normal paper. The paper that I normally use is Hammermill Color Copy Digital. I'll leave a link in the description. But what really, really wows me is this right here. This is super saturated with ink. Nothing shows through to the other side at all. That's flippin' crazy. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. Copic markers don't do that. That's crazy. It's crazy cool. It's awesome. That blows my mind. So this paper, though, I'm thinking that the reason it bleeds, you can, maybe if I zoom in, you can see where it's bleeding a little bit. Sure, like right here, past the edge. My marker didn't go past the edge. That's the ink bleeding over that line. And up here too, all around. And it was bleeding into my letter, so I had to make these outlines a lot thicker. I expected that. It does that on any paper. Copic markers do that on any paper. But I wasn't expecting it to happen this much. Now, that being said, the markers blend even better than I expected on this paper. I have used lots of different kinds of paper with Copic markers, and the blendability, the movability of the pigments, even after they're laid down, is pretty darn phenomenal on this paper. And I think part of that, now, I could be completely wrong about this, but I think that each sheet of paper has like 3 layers to it. I think it's got a paper layer, and then it must have some in-between layer in the middle of the sheet that is like an opaque, some kind of barrier layer. You know, you can get a lot of marker papers that have like a paper surface, and then the back of the paper is like some kind of plasticky film, so that you don't have to put another paper underneath it to stop it from bleeding through. Those papers have the same bleeding issue that this paper has, where the ink bleeds so much. And I think what's happening is there's a barrier. I think it's got 3 layers. I think it's got a paper layer, a barrier, and then another paper layer. And when you put the ink into the paper layer, the barrier stops it from going through to be seen on the other side. And then because that barrier stops it, if you oversaturate it, it just spreads across the page. I think that's what's going on. I could be completely wrong, but I think that's what's going on. That being said, this paper is freaking amazing for a sketchbook. For a sketchbook where you would expect to just play, and a sketchbook is not the kind of thing where you're trying to make perfect, finished, amazing, awesome art. It's not like with a sketchbook, it's not something that I'm gonna like hang this up on my wall and say, look, I drew my name, it says Mr. New. This is a place to practice with materials, practice with techniques, practice with all sorts of whatevers. And so far, I'm pleased with this sketchbook. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and finish adding some color to this, and then I'll come back again at the end and give a final review. All I wanted to do was just test this page to see how it would handle the whole no show through claim, and wow, that blows my mind. I've done a little bit more thinking while I was finishing that up, thinking about price. Now, I do want to talk very briefly about the cost versus usability. This toned tan sketchbook, which I very much enjoyed and had quite a good time with. 50 sheets, 48 sheets. So roughly equivalent in the number of sheets. But you could almost say this is double, depending on the materials you're using. Because you can use both sides. If you're using materials that bleed through the page, then this is twice as many usable pages as this. And there's more involved than just the paper. When you get a sketchbook, a nice hardbound sketchbook is sometimes worth a little bit more than a spiral bound. As a matter of fact, I personally, honestly, really hate these spiral bound sketchbooks because these wires, they always get bent and twisted. I like to take it with me when I go places. I like to shove it in a backpack. And if you take a look at like this one, you can see how like the corners and the edges are getting ruffled, and I have had to, a couple of these wires have flattened in. I've had to bend them back out. So I think in terms of, I could consider this to have twice as many pages as this other one. And so this was $16. 2 of these would be $12. So it's a difference of $4 basically. And I think that $4 difference might be worth it for the construction, the solidness of this. It is, you know, nice hardbound. Like I said, it's also, like I mentioned before, I don't know if you can see in there. Let's take a close look. Yeah, it's glued. The pages are all glued in, and they are stitched in. So I don't expect. You might be able to see the stitching right there. I don't expect any of these pages to ever fall out unless I purposefully pull a page out. So far I've only tested with Copic markers. I really want to test with some paints at some point. I might get back to you guys. I'll probably just leave it in the comments below this video. I don't need to make another video just to show how it handles paint. But my assumption, based on how thick the paper is, that this is going to take and handle any kind of paint just perfectly fine as well. I don't know that watercolors are going to work on this because watercolors needs a paper that is sized with an absorbent layer that affects how quickly the moisture gets absorbed. This definitely does not have that. So I don't know if I'd recommend it for watercolor paints, but acrylics, temperas, I don't think oils, I don't think I would ever use oils in a sketchbook situation. It's got to be something that dries quickly. If you did oils, you'd have to leave it open to that page for like a year or two before it dries. I mean, oil paints take forever to dry. But acrylics, you could do something with acrylics on here, lay it out to dry overnight, and move on to the next page the next day. Tempera is the same thing. So yeah, I would expect any kind of paint to do just fine in here. But I'll get back to you. I'll leave a comment down below once I've done that. It might be a week or two. But yeah, I recommend this RendR Sketchbook. Let me grab this so you can see what it would look like if you're purchasing it. I'll leave a link down in the description below. I'll also leave this one, the link to this one, in the description as well, because this is the one I compared it to. And this sketchbook did a great job for me for Inktober. And why not, I'll go ahead and throw in some links for the supplies that I used in case you're interested in any of those. If you've got any questions about any of these supplies that I used today, just leave a comment down below and I'll get back to you about it. If you want to see more videos about using Copic markers, I got some of them. I'll link that in the description. If you like this video and you want to see more like it, hit the subscribe button and hit the notification bell so that you never miss a future video. Like it, share it, thumbs up it, whatever you want to call it. Smash those buttons down below if that's what you do. And thanks again for watching. and I look forward to seeing you next time.